Hello everyone, Loremaster of Sotek here, and today's another exciting day. I'm honestly struggling to keep up with everything that Creative Assembly is doing. I can't even pay attention to things that are happening outside of Creative Assembly because they're releasing so much stuff on a regular basis that it's just obscene, man. I think there was practically an announcement every day this week, and I don't think it's showing any sign of slowing down going into the future. But for today, we finally got the Tzeentch trailer. So I'm really excited to dive into this. I wanted to record myself watching it, and I'm really hyped to see. Hopefully Kairos will get to talk and we'll get to hear his voice actor, but I'm really excited to see what we have in store, so let's hop into it.
It is foreseen.
Oh shit!
It was inevitable.
He's got two voices! He's got two different voices!
Masters of manipulation.
What are those?
Orchestrators of grand complexity.
Dude, look at this map, dude! Holy shit!
All touched by the architect of fate. Do you seek the ultimate truth?
Hey, it's Arthurial!
You reveal the unfathomable.
I love those scooters!
Manipulate fate.
Oh! Oh, there was so much going on my eyes, I couldn't even pay attention to what they were talking about. Dude, the map for this looks crazy, and look at all these new units. So we've seen the cultists on foot, but there are mounted cultists of Tzeentch. Dude, look at their moon masks. Oh, man, those are scary looking guys. Ugh, the terrain's got like eyeballs and crystals coming out of it. Oh my good. Okay, hold on. I gotta watch this again. Oh, Kairos sounds. I love that Kairos has two different voices. B, he sounds great.
It is foreseen. Change was inevitable. Masters of manipulation. Orchestrators of grand complexity.
The horrors.
By the architect of fate.
There's a herald.
Do you seek the ultimate truth?
Okay, we'll talk about him in a second.
You reveal the unfathomable. Manipulate fate.
This music is good. Okay, so Tzeentch looks great. His domain, the Crystal Labyrinth, or wherever the hell we are, looks incredible. It looks just as good as Korn's Realm, if not even better. Lots of new units flying around. And by new, I mean like stuff we just haven't seen before. So obviously, dude, the disc chosen are so fun. Like, I just love them. I love them. They look like they're going to be a ton of fun. But, so we've got these guys. We've seen them on foot. We've seen cultists. I don't know what these guys are called, because the cultist is probably going to be like a hero. But these cultist staff-wielding dudes, we've seen them on foot, and now we have a mounted variant. So it looks like Tzeentch does not have Chaos Knights. He has these guys riding on Chaos Knight steeds, or Chaos steeds, which is really interesting. Like, they're very lightly armored, and then their steeds are like, whoa, like super heavily armored. They look really good though. I love these guys. They're just zipping around. So here, we've got, oh look, we got the burning chariot of Tzeentch. You've got burning chariots. There are heralds on burning chariots. So the way you get, so there's a regular burning chariot of Tzeentch which has a flamer, an exalted flamer on the back being pulled, And then you can also see there are Heralds of Tzeentch being pulled by Screamers. So that's really cool. So we've got all the Tzeentch chariots. And they're just zipping along. Just kind of looking in the backgrounds, because there's so much going on in the backgrounds. Man, Tzeentch has so much flying stuff. Wait, hold on a second.
Masters of manipulation.
Oh, look at that. The warriors' feet don't touch the disc. They like hover above it a little bit. I wonder if that's intentional.
By the architect of
So here, I'm wondering if this is a regular herald or if this is the I forget what they're going to be called, but I wonder if this is like the unit champion, so like the hero version, or if this is the actual herald, which is another lord for like Khorne. Also, dude, the screamers' faces, all their eyes and their faces look so, they're just like, oh, they just look like, they're just like, ugh. So let's talk about this guy. Looks like Creative Assembly is doing something really smart. So I'm actually gonna look it up in a second, but I don't think that there is a super dynamic change between multiple versions of the Lord of Change, right? And we know that for all of the demon factions, they're making it where you can have a generic greater demon as just a monster in your army, so you can have a whole bunch of them. And then there's an exalted greater demon, which is your actual lord. So it looks like what they're doing, which I actually think is really clever, is that the Age of Sigmar design for the greater demons, which is what Kairos is. Kairos is using his AOS skin. So what I'm thinking is that the Warhammer Fantasy ones are going to be your regular Lords of Change. And then the ones that are like Kairos, the Age of Sigmar design, are going to be the exalted Lords of Change. So they'll be really easy to teleport in the battlefield. Because, you know, with Khorne, Khorne you can tell based on their weapons, where the regular Greater Demon has a big axe, and the exalted Greater Demon has the whip and the single-handed weapon, if memory serves. So really like that look. So yeah, really excited. Tzeentch looks incredible. That was probably the best Enter the World of trailer, maybe right behind Khorne. But let's hop into the article. So for the article, there's so much to talk about. Like, oh my god, there's so much to talk about. So let's hop into it. First, they talk about so this thing is going to be talking about the Monogod factions, and they're revealing all the mechanics. So the roster, we're not getting the roster reveal for Tzeentch yet. We're starting off with his mechanics, because for whatever reason they're doing all the different races in a different order, it seems like. So the big thing they want to do is they want to show Tzeentch and talk about his mechanics. Now, something they've spoken about in this article is that these are not the mechanics of Kairos. Kairos's mechanics will be covered at a later date. These are the mechanics for Tzeentch Lords, meaning that future DLC and free LC that aligns itself to Tzeentch will use some or all of these mechanics. So let's hop into them. Starting off with the Grimoire. So remember, this is all Tzeentch factions. Grimoires. As a god of knowledge, Tzeentch desires it above all else. Grimoires represent forbidden texts, hidden spell books, ancient lore, unknown histories, and everything else that is floating around the Warhammer world that is not commonly known. It is favored with Tzeentch that can be used to ensure success. Grimoires are collected and generated by any number of actions, such as battles, building, sacking, settlements, dilemmas, and more. By themselves, they do very little, but you have an endless number of ways to spend them, and keeping a steady supply will make you a master of the world even without your armies. And the first actual mechanic, so that's a new resource. So one of the things you can spend it on is the changing of the ways. The primary spending for Grimoires is the changing of the ways. This is a series of actions unique to Tzeentchian factions that will allow you to change or observe things on the campaign map with merely a wave of the wrist. Each has a reasonable cooldown and costs a chunk of Grimoires, scaling with the severity and effectiveness of the action. Beyond the first, each also requires a technology to unlock, some of which may be buried fairly deep in the tech tree. Here's a rundown of what's possible. So you start off with Reveal Shroud, and then the rest of them you have to unlock through the tech tree. So you can see they're locked behind techs. Though in this image, someone has already unlocked Transfer Settlement, and you can see like you pick a faction, and it costs 50 Grimoires. So let's talk about what they do. I love these. They're so thematic, they're so powerful, and they're so fun. So first you have, so let's just go down the list. Transfer Settlement. Transfer control and ownership of one settlement to a new faction. This can be your faction or another. That is amazing and allows you to do so much, funny stuff, like very, very easily. I absolutely love that. Like, hey, you have control of a province except for one settlement that's owned by an ally. Well, now you could say, nope, that's mine. Or you're attacking somewhere, but one of the locations is owned by a faction you don't want to declare war on. You could switch it, control that settlement to a different faction who you're already at war with. That way you could just fight them and get the same settlement. Really, really strong and cool ability. Open gates. Open the gates of a major settlement with walls for any battles in that settlement in the next few turns. So that's amazing. Tzeentch doesn't even need the siege attacker trait. He could just be like, nope, those gates, those are open now until I decide to take it, at least for a few turns. Force rebellion. Immediately cause a rebellion in a region. Very nice. Track army. You're given the line of sight over a target army. Good if you want to know where somebody is and like kind of see where they're going. Reveal faction intentions. Select a faction and show the plans of all of their armies that they control. That is so cool. So you are literally able to pick a faction and see where they're going to move, who they're planning to attack, what they're planning to do, and you can make counter actions. Mwah, I love it. Reveal Shroud gives complete vision over your target faction's territory. This is the one you start with. That's still really strong and can allow you to see like where their heroes are and anything that may be going on in their territory, so you can make plans. Halt faction. All characters, so armies and heroes, have their movement halted and or disabled for the faction's following turn. Amazing. You're chasing after an enemy army and they keep running away from you. Halt. They can't run away anymore. Or they're barreling down on one of your settlements and you need an extra turn to get there and help defend. Halt. They can't do anything anymore. Amazing. Give war coordination target. Gives a faction a war coordination target even if they are not your ally. So as long as you're, I'm assuming it's either pick a faction they're at war with, or pick, I imagine it's you have to pick a faction they are at war with. So, but they don't have to be your ally. So if the Empire is fighting the vampire counts and you're like, ooh man, I would really like the Empire to attack this settlement, maybe so I know they're not defending this other settlement I want to hit, or maybe I can like manipulate that to be in my scheme. You could tell the Empire, hey, attack this settlement, and the AI will go do that. Awesome. Break alliance. Break the military or defensive alliance between two factions. God tier. Force war. Force a war between two factions. God tier. So much fun. As you can imagine, this can get hectic, manipulative, and downright scummy depending on your desires and plans. While it's unlikely you'll be able to get all of your goals completed without ever annihilating an enemy army yourself, it gives several fascinating possibilities in the mid to late game. Even early transferring settlements between factions you're not interested in warring with to ones you're about to conquer can be very powerful. I love this so much. Tzeentch sounds like an absolute blast to play for people that just want to be like, just go both hands deep into just messing around and scheming. Winds of Magic Manipulation. Another unique ability to Tzeentchian factions is his specific control of the Winds of Magic. Indeed, so tight are his machinations to them that many buildings on Tzeentch factions have unique effects when the Winds of Magic are particularly strong, increasing their capabilities. To this end, Tzeentch as a mechanic can reduce the Winds of Magic in one province where he has at least one settlement to increase it in another province at will. As well as providing the aforementioned buffs to his buildings, this allows for armies with multiple spellcasters, which is going to be quite a lot if you're playing Tzeentch, believe it or not, to benefit heavily in terms of the power reserves available to them. It's also worth noting that there have been some large changes made to the nature of the Winds of Magic and power reserves in battle, which we will detail very soon. The upshot is that this ability should never be discounted to ensure victory. So, first of all, this means Tzeentch has a brand new awesome mechanic where many of the buildings that he builds will gain bonus effects or may not have, or may have completely new effects if you have enough winds of magic in that area. And to go along with that, Tzeentch, as long as you control 2 settlements in 2 different provinces, you can say, you know what, I don't need stuff over here right now. I'm not fighting over here. I don't have any important buildings. So I'm going to suck the winds of magic away from this one and put it into this other province where I do need those buffs or my armies need more magic. Fantastic. And next is Corruption, Unholy Manifestations, and the Great Game. The Great Game never ceases between the Chaos Gods. It represents their endless attempts to one-up each other. The endless fighting of chaos ensures that even should they dominate the world, it is unlikely to ever know peace. Even the gods that can stand each other rarely see eye to eye, and alliances are rarer than a surprise Lord of Change. Thus, it is represented in Warhammer 3 as which god is in the Ascendant, powering up all their factions on the map. This is in the form of improvements to Unholy Manifestations, 4 free abilities available to every demon faction. Demon faction. There are are you saying Sotek was right? Are you saying that Sotek was correct, that these are demon factions, not pure monogod? Therefore the Warriors of Chaos are still going to be important, and there's going to be a Tzeentchian Warrior of Chaos, which is why they specify that all Tzeentch factions will receive the buffs above this one, but not below this one. So Unholy Manifestations are unique to only the demons. I'm not, like, granted, I still could be wrong. It's not, we don't know exactly how it's going to be interpreted, but I'm feeling more confident than ever that my prediction that these mono factions are demons. And then should the mortal faction show up, they're probably going to be actually Warriors of Chaos factions that have access to their gods' gimmicks, as opposed to mono god factions that will have like a completely different roster or something. But once again, we'll have to see how it turns out. But I'm feeling more confident than ever. Anyway, so the demon factions unlock unholy manifestations based on how much corruption is spread throughout the world. Corruption is now split between general chaos corruption and 4 types, 1 for each god. We'll detail this system at another time, but what you need to know right now is that the unholy manifestations unlock as more corruption for your god is spread across the land. The upgraded versions have heavier effects, generating more of a resource or dealing more damage to an army, for example. Here's the unholy manifestations for Tzeentch. The one you unlock from the start at 0 corruption, Scriveners of Insanity, allows a friendly army to generate a big batch of grimoires over the course of several turns. The army cannot move during this time and must be in enemy territory. That's really cool. If you're just like, man, I really need a shit ton of grimoires, it's kind of almost like a different kind of raid stance, but it takes multiple turns. But that, it sounds like it'll be a really good thing for just get a really cheap army, throw them into enemy territory and make sure they're vaguely protected, and just let them harvest grimoires for you so you can use them for other things. Mutagenic Energies requires 1,500 global Tzeentch corruption. Causes a target army to suffer attrition for a turn, regardless of situation or immunities. Very cool. Wow, so regardless of immunity. So Durthu could like be an encampment stance and you could still say, nope, you suffer attrition. Bah! Magic Flare requires 3,000 global Tzeentch attrition. Increases the range and barrier hit points of all units in an army. Barrier is a special shield that all Tzeentch units have. We'll detail this further in the upcoming roster reveal. Awesome, so probably next week. Okay, so people were right in the battle video we watched that all the little bubbles you see, or all the little like waves and auras you see popping up around the Tzeentch units when they're attacked is a shield. It's a barrier that they have that protects them from damage. Night of Madness requires 6,000 global Tzeentch corruption. Target friendly army generates Tzeentch corruption and control, renamed from public order, lost in a province, as well as increasing the army's winds of magic power reserve. It cannot move during these turns. So if there's a place where you want to generate a lot of corruption, you could throw an army in, and not only does it make it more likely rebellions will happen, and it generates massive amounts of corruption, but it also has more winds of magic, which will so the army will probably be better at defending itself. And to cults. We're getting cults finally. Cults, as well as the passive effects for high corruption, which are unique to each god and will be detailed down the line. Cultists can form once a god is particularly dominant in a region. Okay, so you need to be the dominant god. It's not just high corruption. You need to be bigger than the other three. This cult becomes a foreign building slot owned by you that can construct unique buildings based on your dedicated god. Tzeentch's options are the following. The Sanctuary generates grimoires per turn. The Repository generates more grimoires per turn, but requires high winds of magic level to activate. So that's something we talked about earlier. The Sanctum generates a decent amount of income, but also requires high winds of magic level. And the Campus destroys your cult, but increases the winds of magic here and in all adjacent regions or provinces to tempestuous. Fantastic. You probably don't require the entire knowledge base of Tzeentch to understand the strategy here, but naturally it all depends on where your cults develop and what you're in need of. Generating huge amounts of grimoires can be far more valuable than income after all, particularly in the late game. Teleportation. Unique to Tzeentch and unlocked through the tech tree. Oh, his armies have a teleport stance. Wow, so this is the first time we've seen an army stance that has to be unlocked through the tech tree. So that's an interesting new mechanic. This stance costs Winds of Magic power reserve to adopt, but is exceptionally powerful. Oh, and it costs you Winds of Magic too. Not only does it allow the crossing of impassable terrain, say mountain ranges, rivers, and patrolled areas. What is a patrolled area? I wonder if that's like an actual thing, or if they're just saying that like places where enemies are. Or maybe that's what like the bubble around an army is referred to. That's its patrolled area. But instantly triggers an ambush battle should you target an enemy. Wow. So it's an underway stance that you can attack in, and if you attack someone, it's a guaranteed ambush. Woo-hoo, boy. It's a one-shot move, so you must re-adopt the stance if you wish to go on again in the next turn. But getting to ambush armies as you like can really swing a warrior way. I wonder if it's guaranteed, or if it's like it triggers an ambush scenario, but if your opponent has like really high ambush defense, they can still like prevent it from being an ambush. It'll be interesting to see what the specifics are on that. Because man, if that's just like a flat out 100% guaranteed ambush, that is really nasty. This level of power is why it's locked in the later game for Tzeentch, requiring various techs to unlock. Speaking of which, the tech tree! Tzeentch's tech tree is a bit more of a tech web, spreading out from a center point like a spider's home. Nothing the Changer of Ways does is ever simple or straightforward. Each area of the tree is unlocked by one of the central techs, and then has a couple of looping paths through it leading to a final tech. This means you're rarely going to take the exact same path of the tree on 2 playthroughs unless you have an exact composition and plan in mind. It's also worthy of study to find which prerequisites might point you in specific directions. It's also worth noting that, along with the unique Changer of Ways techs you might unlock, there are several other areas that are uncommon or unique choices. Various techs will give spells to all your Lords of Change, letting you field an entire army of powerful, monstrous spellcasters even without touching your hero slots, and then becoming more powerful over the course of the game. That is amazing! Because I was actually thinking about that, is that with the regular Greater Demons being troops, how would they cast magic? Like, I guess you could give them, like, bound spells, but it sounds like you're going to be able to really deck out your Lords of Change, because, they don't have a skill tree, right? They're just a unit. So it sounds like you'll be able to go through your tech tree in order to give them access to all their spells. That is awesome! Finally, with knowledge so key to Tzeentch, he has an endless number of ways to increase research rate, including commandments, buildings, and more regular things like hero actions. With a dedicated plan, you will blitz through the tech tree and be fielding cheap, effective, and devastating armies earlier than your opponents. Very, very exciting. That's all for Tzeentch, though naturally much of his gameplay revolves around the new magic system's lore and corruption changes. We will get into the new magic system and lore within the coming weeks, and the corruption changes at a more appropriate time to corrupt the lands. See you soon. Wow. Tzeentch looks incredible. Also, I really hope I'm understanding this correctly. Because because I can interpret this in one of two ways. Either it's going to be that the demon, there's like Tzeentch factions that all Tzeentch characters fall under, but if you have a demon character leading it, you're a demon faction, in which case you have access to these mechanics. But if you're led by a warrior character, you don't have access to these mechanics. You have access to different mechanics. But if that's true, I wonder, would it make more sense for the Tzeentch character, like a Tzeentch Warrior of Chaos character, where would they go, right? Would you put them in the Warriors of Chaos, but they have access to these higher Tzeentch mechanics, and then they have their own mechanics as being part of the Warriors of Chaos, which presumably will get reworked? Or are they a Tzeentch faction that has access to the higher mechanics, but then Tzeentch has sub-factions that have different mechanics? Because it sounds like the demons are going to be invested in Unholy Manifestations and the Great Game mechanic, but the Warriors of Chaos will not. So the Warriors of Chaos are not going to have cults, because they're saying that everything beneath this line, so the new corruption, or the Tzeentch corruption, the Unholy Manifestations, and the Great Game, are unique to demons. So I'm thinking that means that the Warriors of Chaos are going to have everybody. So, like, if you get Village the Curseling or Galroch or Egrin von Horseman, for instance, who are all Tzeentch characters, it sounds like they are going to be in the Warriors of Chaos faction. So they're going to use the Warriors of Chaos tech tree, they're going to use the Warriors of Chaos corruption, and they're going to use the Warriors of Chaos, and they're not going to have access to cults, which to me makes sense. Like, the cult seems like it should purely be for the demons. And the Unholy Manifestation should purely be for the demons. But it sounds like the grimoires, the changing of the ways, and the ability to manipulate the winds of magic will be available to the Tzeentch factions, regardless of if they're warriors or demons. So, I'm really curious how that's going to work, because either way you split it, it's weird, right? If they are a Warrior Chaos faction that has access to Tzeentch mechanics, that's mind-boggling and very new. But it's also very brand new if they are a Tzeentch faction that does not have access to the demon mechanics, but instead have their own system. Like, no matter where you put it, they're going to be weird, and it's going to be new and different. So let me know what y'all think. Let me know, do y'all think it's going to be, based on the way this article's worded and the way they're talking about it, do y'all think it's going to be that the Tzeentch factions, so Tzeentch Warriors of Chaos and Tzeentch Demons of Chaos, are all going to be together, and then there's going to be a split within that faction where you've got your mortals and then your demons? Or do you think it's going to be that you've got Warriors of Chaos and Demons of Tzeentch as two separate factions, but in the Warriors of Chaos faction, if you are dedicated to a specific god as a Warrior of Chaos, you get access to some of the higher level mechanics for the other gods? Let me know which side of that you're on, because it's going to be one of those two. But I'm not sure which. I can see it happening either way. Personally, I'm hoping that they are a Warrior of Chaos faction that has access to Tzeentch mechanics and units. For instance, like, if you play as Tzeentch, if you play as, like, let's say Village the Curseling, I would want him to be Warriors of Chaos. He has, like, Warrior of Chaos skins for everything, but he has Chaos Lords, Chaos Sorcerer Lords, Exalted Heroes, Chaos Sorcerers, and he has, like, all the warriors, but they're all, like, in blue and appropriate and stuff. But as part of that, he has access to those higher level Tzeentch mechanics, so he has access to grimoires, the changing of the ways, and the magic manipulation. And then he also has access to, like, a handful of units that are warriors from the pure Tzeentch demons. So, like, he has access to the flying disc guys, and maybe he has access to those weird cultist guys on the Chaos Knights and stuff. Let me know what y'all think. I'm really curious. But that's gonna be it for this video. I'm super excited by all this. Tzeentch looks incredible, And based on the changing of the ways, I have very, very high hopes that this means we're going to get a reworked diplomacy system. Because a lot of the stuff Tzeentch is able to do is stuff we want to see in diplomacy. Obviously, Tzeentch could just make it happen using his grimoires, but like being able to trade settlements, which this allows you to do, like to break alliances and stuff like that, I hope is something that we get a better handle on. So that's gonna be it for me. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely weekend. I've got an AOS tournament tomorrow, which I'm stressed about, but you know, it's going. So I'll see you guys probably on Sunday for another video, and then of course on Monday, because Brave Assembly's not stopping, dudes. Like, this is just, oh boy. Okay, so just so much. So love your faces. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye!